Good morning to you. We made it to Tuesday, November 26th. Glad to have you with us.
Christmas was good, wasn't it?
Oh, it was wonderful. Family was in town.
Good.
They're leaving today. I don't know where my tissues are.
Will Ferrell's biggest fan, Angelynn.
Hey.
A former news anchor is reportedly accused of stabbing her mother to death in Wichita, Kansas. Sheriff's Department records show 47-year-old Angelynn Mock is accused of first-degree murder and is being held on $1 million bond.
There was a woman who came and approached our vehicle with blood, like her hands were filled, her body was filled with blood, asking to call 911.
In front of him, stabbed the mother to save herself.
When officers with the Wichita Police Department arrived, Mock was waiting outside with a series of bloody cuts on her hands.
Police arrested former St. Louis news anchor Angelynn Mock for killing her mother. This was in Wichita, Kansas. Records show Mock was booked into the Sedgwick County Jail for first-degree murder. Police say officers responded to the stabbing Friday night and found the victim, 80-year-old Anita Avers, in bed with multiple stab wounds.
A former St. Louis morning show anchor, who for years was a cheerful presence for viewers to wake up to, is now shockingly accused of stabbing her own mother to death on Halloween.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't breathe. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Now, let me ask you, was the TV anchor crazy when she worked as a TV anchor when she was on television?
Pronounced dead.
I love highlighting so many cool and interesting things that come to the St. Louis area.
Mock went by Angie Mock when she was a reporter and anchor for St. Louis's Fox affiliate from 2011 to 2015, according to her LinkedIn profile. She has since worked in software sales.
And so how do you think Angie went from this to that? But coming back to the question, do you think she was crazy when she was on television? Or did she become crazy?
Angelynn Mock is accused of first-degree murder and is being held on $1 million bond. She has yet to make her first court appearance. Wichita police say they responded to a call at a home on Halloween morning. Cops found the suspect outside the house and the 80-year-old victim in her bed with multiple stab wounds.
Mock was found outside the house. Avers was taken to the hospital and pronounced dead not long after.
Now, according to People, the former news anchor who is accused of fatally stabbing her elderly mother allegedly told police she did so. She stabbed her mother, she killed her mother to save herself, a statement that may suggest she was claiming self-defense. Now, you may remember from my coverage of the Reiner case, which is very intertextual in some elements to this one, that the definition of an insanity defense, certainly associated with schizophrenia, often involves someone hearing voices that tell them to commit murder. It's about an individual that can't tell the difference between reality and fiction, or right from wrong. Not guilty by reason of insanity cases involve allegedly auditory hallucinations, hearing voices from God, demons, whatever, and it generally hinges on whether a severe mental illness such as schizophrenia or psychosis causes the defendant to lose the ability to distinguish right from wrong. Now, according to People, Angelynn Angie Mock was arrested after the Sedgwick County Police Department said that she stabbed her mother, Anita Avers, 80, to death in Wichita, Kansas. The department said in a release that it had responded to a reported cutting on Friday, October 31st, and found Mock standing outside the home. Avers was found unresponsive in her bed with multiple stab wounds. According to county records, Mock is charged with first-degree murder and is being held for a $1 million bond. This is a prescient example of a not guilty by reason of insanity case. And as we deal with it, I want you to think how it is similar, how it is different, and also what is missing from the story compared to the Reiner story. Now, what we can see from the outset was that this crime involved cutting or stabbing and a lot of blood, and also a close family member also appears to have been committed in a bedroom. It also looks as though Angie lived in the same home as her mother, and it was committed on a symbolic day, Halloween. Remember, the Reiners were murdered on the first day of Hanukkah. All of these are similarities, right? According to the Wichita Eagle, criminal proceedings for a former news anchor accused of stabbing her mother to death have halted after a court evaluation found she's not competent to stand trial. And Nick Reiner's competency is also, I think, hanging in the balance. I think that is also going to be something that will need to be determined.
New this afternoon, a judge rules a former TV news anchor accused of killing her mother is not competent to stand trial. Angelynn appeared in court for a brief hearing today. She's charged with first-degree murder in the death of her mother, Anita Avers. Court documents say that when officers walked inside the home last fall, they found 80-year-old Avers lying on her bed, unresponsive, with multiple stab wounds to her face and upper body.
According to the Wichita Eagle, court records and family members say 47-year-old Angelynn E. Mock has a history of serious mental health issues, including delusions and a schizoaffective disorder that caused the Wichita woman to make deranged statements and have angry outbursts. So what we see is an association between schizoaffective disorder and rage, in this case directed at her own mother. Nick Reiner also had a history of mental health issues. But the question is, when did they begin and why did they begin? That same question applies here. Was Angelynn Mock always mentally ill or just occasionally? And what brought on this mental illness? Also, if she's not competent to stand trial now, could she regain competency later? According to the Wichita Eagle, Mock was arrested on Halloween 2025 after calling police to her mother's South Wichita home. Now, what appears to have happened here is that Mock had some sort of delusion, and then when she recovered her senses, she called 911 curiously on someone else's phone. What was wrong with hers? Perhaps she thought that someone was monitoring her phone. There seems to be a sense that she woke up out of some sort of fugue state and realized what she did, and then she wanted to remedy the situation. Of course, this is completely different in the Reiner case, where Nick seemed to flee the scene and was effectively on the run when caught. Unlike Angelynn, he never called 911. Can you see how the rationality of the two perpetrators aren't the same, particularly during the post-meditation phase? According to the Wichita Eagle, first responders found Mock's mother in her bed bleeding from her neck and chest. And so that is also similar to the Reiners. They were also had their throats slashed, right? And this is pretty strange. A bloody cheese grater was also laid out on a pillow next to her mother. And so she was taken to hospital where she died. Another similarity is the severity, the cruelty inherent in both crimes. What was Mock's relationship with her mother over time? And did Angelynn have any drugs in her system at the time that this crime was committed? According to the Wichita Eagle, covered in blood, Mock gave several explanations to police as to what happened. That's also quite interesting. I wonder if that's several conflicting explanations. But one of them was that she killed her mother in self-defense after her mother started spewing venom at me out of her probably effing mouth. That's according to court documents. But that hardly makes sense. Words aren't weapons, and one's life can't be in danger based on someone simply saying something. But that's another aspect worth considering. When the cops found Nick, he was in clean clothes and there was no blood, whereas Mock called the cops while covered in blood. I think the obvious question that arises here is, between the two, Nick Reiner and Angelynn, which one would you say strikes you as the more sane in the context of the crime? And what appears to be missing from Angelynn's story? Well, how about the drug narrative? Aren't drugs part of her story? And if they are they the reason she killed her mother? Or is her underlying mental condition the reason for what happened? Or is she culpable for murder after all?
And then you'll sit in that little chair.
One final observation. Doesn't Angelynn look a little like Cuckoo Annie Wilkes in Misery? Well, I'm not going to take it further than that, but I think this does illustrate some of the key ingredients in a not guilty by reason of insanity case. And the question is, does Nick Reiner's case meet that standard? What do you think? Well, let me know in the comments. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.